Hello aspirants, this is me Yasmin Gill presenting to you the PIB highlights of 6th of February. So you can follow all these videos on this particular link, plus the course for February English PIB highlights is live, so you can also go to the course and rate and review the same. So let's begin. Firstly, we have under society related issues quite many topics related to education. First is international quality education. So in that context, initially there used to be an assessment by the name of PISA, the full form being Program for International Student Assessment. So India participated in it in 2009 by two of its state participation. One was Tamil Nadu, second was Himachal Pradesh. But after 2009, we did not participate into it. Why? Because we said that we are developing our own National Achievement Survey. This very important National Achievement Survey is conducted by NCERT independently related to the international guidelines. And this used to conduct surveys for class 3rd, 5th, 8th and 10th. But from the current year onwards, there is a change. So what we'll be doing is we'll be conducting this annual NAS, that is National Achievement Survey, for all classes ranging from 1st to 8th in government schools as well as government aided schools. So this is how we can keep a check on the quality of education that is being provided. Also, what will be the parameters that will be taken? So learning outcomes will be codified by NCERT. Next, we have institutions of eminence. So what exactly are institutions of eminence? See, ever since the current government came to power, it has made a promise. Promise of what? That because many of our institutes do not figure in the global ranking, so what we'll be doing is we'll be upgrading or maybe setting up new 20 world-class educational institutions, of which 10 should be from the public sector. So these 20 institutions would be those which will be known as institutions of eminence. In that context, as per the draft, any public educational institution, do remember public, including IIMs, are eligible for formation as the institutions of eminence. Also, an additional fact here is that India globally has the second largest higher education system in the world. So this is about institutions of eminence. Next, we have no dual degree. So in India, we do not support dual degree. By dual degree, we mean that a degree which is given by both Indian institute as well as foreign institute. So as per UGC regulations, there can be a collaboration in some course between foreign university and Indian university. But when the degree is given, it will be given by the Indian university only, not by foreign educational institution. So joint degrees are not permitted. Then we have Justice Ashok Kumar Rupanwal Commission. So it had submitted its report in December 2016. So what was the commission formed for? Most importantly, the reason or the idea behind it, it was formed after Rohit Vemula's unfortunate suicide. So what it has suggested, we'll be going through it, and simultaneously government has asked all central universities to implement the suggestions. So see, the crux of all the suggestion points here is that we have to support students, particularly those students who come from outside areas, in context of their studies, in context of any sort of problems they face in hostels, in context of grievance redressal mechanisms, etc. So let's go to the points one by one. Firstly, we have, in case the excesses are committed by university itself, there should be some appeal mechanism. Otherwise, within the university, there should be counseling centers plus monitoring committees. These monitoring committees will actually help in any sort of problem faced by the student in any subject. Simultaneously, we have remedial teaching concept. So this remedial teaching, evident from the name, it will be for the academically weak student. Then we have, other than counseling centers, monitoring committees and the remedial teaching, we have equal opportunity cell. This particular thing is very important in context of Rohit Vemula's suicide. So this directly addresses it. Why? Because this will have an anti-discrimination officer and this will overall give equal opportunities to everyone irrespective of any sort of identity. Then we have grievance redressal committee, which was already suggested by UGC regulations. It has to be made effective. Plus we have to have, for the students who come from outside particularly, strong induction program. So that they feel a sense of belonging to the institute. Simultaneously, local guardian system, so that they do not feel as outsiders in that particular city and that particular institute. Then grievances should be discussed on a weekly basis and dispensed of also in a weekly basis. Plus, vice chancellor should hold monthly meetings. Then we have the deans, which are mainly for student welfare, etc. They should closely monitor the problems. In case there is some excessive problem, he or she should report it to vice chancellor. Lastly, student involvement. Suitable student volunteers would be there who could act as the mentors for the new students. So then we have polity and governance. Under polity and governance, we have this important topic of Supreme Court supposedly overstepping its jurisdiction. So how so? Why are we talking of it? Because Supreme Court recently has appointed a panel to run the cricket administration. So after removing the members from the BCCI board, it has actually come up with a self-appointed panel to run the cricket administration. The argument which Supreme Court gives is that the board would not reform on its own and therefore the reform has to be pushed. But the counter question asked is that could not have Supreme Court appointed a panel for a different purpose? What could be the different purpose? To amend the BCCI's constitution itself so as to lay new rules that could have automatically sort of brought in accountability and transparency. So couldn't have that be done rather than appointing a panel itself? Also, the second question which comes into limelight is that how did it arrive at the name of the panel members? Particularly important, why? Because two of its members, they belong to same organization, which is not a very good thing. Also, Lodha committee, which had invested a lot of time and energy regarding the cricket administration, shouldn't it have been given the role to actually oversee the implementation rather than Supreme Court overseeing the implementation via its self-appointed panel? And lastly, we have this very good statement, which is that cricket reforms demand a long-term vision. So you can actually judge upon the fact whether it is an overstepping or is it not, or is it something which is required. Then we have this question pertaining to elections. So in context of increasing fresh voters, in case of increasing fresh voters, by fresh voters I mean that people who are voting for the first time, which is increasing the number of the youth voters, what factors as per you decide upon the voting behavior of the youth in assembly elections? Then we have under international relations BIMSTEC meet. So a few points about the BIMSTEC, I leave it to you. We come to how BIMSTEC is different from other regional forums. So firstly, BIMSTEC focuses on sector-driven cooperation. By sector-driven, I mean they pick out certain sectors which are workable, which can be implemented, which are common areas of concerns. For example, it began with 6 sectors, which included things like trade, technology, etc. Then on it went on to expand to another 9 more sectors. Also, as you must be aware of the fact that in the quite a while back held BRICS meeting in 2016 in Goa, we simultaneously had a BIMSTEC outreach initiative as well. Also, BIMSTEC serves as a very good bridge between South and Southeast Asia. Then we have economics. Firstly, we have special banking arrangement. So the most important point is this came up in this very budget, that is 2017. What is it for? It is to clear the fertilizer subsidy dues. Also, another initiatives pertaining to fertilizer sector include government is trying to revive certain sick plants. So do remember their names because they quite often appear in news. One is in Gorakhpur in UP, Sindri in Jharkhand, Baruni in Bihar. Other than that, we have a new ammonia urea complex at Namrup. Now, do mention where is Namrup located. Then we have Talcher plant. Do mention where Talcher is located. So, the Talcher plant will be the first ever that will be revived using the coal gasification technology. Simultaneously, as we did a few days back to that fertilizer subsidy, the direct benefit transfer in case of fertilizer subsidy is slightly different than the other sort of DBT. How? Because it is not directly given to beneficiaries, rather to companies. So an additional fact to that is that fertilizer companies earlier they used to receive this subsidy on the receipt of fertilizers at the district level, but now they receive the subsidy only when the fertilizer reaches the farmer. So this is how the fertilizer subsidy is slightly different. Then we have all is not well with banking sector. So what is wrong? We know the major problem, that is NPS. So why are we talking about it so now? Because this has become such a sort of cliche problem. So why are we talking? Because in context of demonetization, banking sector could not focus upon the recovery efforts. Also, RBI's March 2017 deadline, which it gave in its asset quality review, whereby it said that by March 2017 they'll be cleaning up the balance sheet of banks plus setting up the bank board bureau. It is about to come. So in that context we'll be discussing it, but plus in budget government came up with the idea of public sector asset rehabilitation agency for the same. So the situation is not very rosy today. Why? Because the credit growth has fallen, particularly to the loans given to small, medium and large firms. Simultaneously, as far as the role of BBB, that is Bank Board Bureau, is concerned, it is mainly limited to the recommendation of names. So what government has done, it has come up with this particular agency. Why so? Because it has this particular idea. What is that? that all the NPA resolution, whatever is the financing required for it, the complete financing cannot come from budget. There has to be certain other innovative financing mechanisms. So one thing which it does is it has come up with the concept of a bad bank. Now what is this bad bank? It is something which will take over the assets from other public sector banks. So this idea has been implemented in countries such as Sweden, France and Germany as well. And what is the whole idea? Once some bad bank takes over the NPAs from the public sector banks, so that particular banks from whom the NPAs have been taken, they can actually focus on their normal commercial activities. So this particular agency, that is Public Sector Asset Rehabilitation Agency, will help in two things. One is it will help in taking politically tough decisions because it will be independent of the government, and secondly it will ensure collaboration. How collaboration? See, it's usually found that people who default, they actually buy their loans from various different banks. So in that context, there is no collaboration between banks, but this particular agency will help doing away with this barrier. Next we have all is again not well with PSUs, that is public sector units. So why so? Because when the current regime came, it sacked many independent directors of various PSUs. So initially we thought it was a sort of cleanup, but later on in the last week what has come forward is that government has come up with new appointments in the same place, that is the independent directors. But these new appointments have come into question. Why? Because most of these have been held by small time politicians, media persons, businessmen, etc. So what are the SEBI rules pertaining to it? SEBI rules state that the board of companies should have 50% independence plus at least one woman. So though these independents do not have any sort of executive role, but they help in professionalizing the board, plus most importantly provide an independent supervision. At times women are appointed to such positions, but they are appointed usually by virtue of their association with ruling party. So in that context, at times non-competent persons are also appointed, and this is also one of the reasons why PSUs are going down, because the selection processes are very political. Next we have under this random collection, do go through it. We are on lack of time, so you can read this yourself. Next we have under environment section, steps taken to prevent coal mine accidents. So we know in context of Jadugoda accident, what are the steps that you can mention in case the disaster is asked in any sort of question? So what are the steps that the government have taken? All the steps pertaining to safety involving workers as well as the organization. So for example, safety audit has been taken up of all coal mines. Within the coal mines, internal safety organizations have been set up. Then promotion mechanisms, for example, national safety awards, national conference, etc. Workers have been made to participate in safety weeks, etc. Simultaneously, for the managers and supervisors, also there have been particular safety training campings. CIL, that is Coal India Limited, have come up with collaboration and training programs with Australia, international collaboration. Then we have special awareness programs such as Safety is My Responsibility, risk-based inspection system, etc. So do go through them. You need not remember all of them, just do 4 or 5 points which you can mention in the case such question comes up. Then we have street lighting national program. So the brief and the static portion you can do it yourself. What I'll focus on is that the implementing agency, that is EESL, it has come up with a very innovative model. So what is that innovative model? See, the municipalities will replace the conventional lights with LEDs at no cost. Now, how will the cost be recovered for municipalities? So, initially, there will be no cost that will be paid to them. The cost that will be paid to them, or the benefits, will accrue how? The reduction that comes by way of LEDs usage in terms of electricity, in terms of energy saving, and in terms of maintenance cost going down. So that will be used to repay the EESL over a period of time. But initially, they'll be replacing it for free completely. Also, the target is to actually come up with 3.5 crore LED street lights in all urban local bodies of the country by 2019. Then we have this Vardhaman Kaushik case. This was the same case whereby NGT directed that all diesel vehicles which are older than 10 years have to be deregistered. Then we have this MCQs, lot many which were asked in today's MCQ session. One is pertaining to a new technique of desalination. Then we have Madhavacharya, then about measles, then about Ishara International Festival, and lastly about Indira Point. So, and one more thing about the Andaman Nicobar and the corresponding map. So in case you find this particular course useful, friends, do not forget to rate and review the same. Thank you so much.